Hey everyone, John P. here. Today we're going to be talking about a watch release, an upcoming watch release that I really like, but there are many watch enthusiasts that are actually kind of crying about it, and I think this is kind of interesting. We're going to cover why I think this is, why I think it shouldn't matter, and how the whole point of this video is, hey, let's have fun with watches and not take things too seriously, because that's kind of where I see some pockets of the internet in watch collecting sphere kind of go in these negative directions. But I think this recent release, collaboration by Blancpain and Swatch, in the vein of the Moonswatch, this is going to be the Bioceramic Scuba 50 Fathoms Dive Watch series. Swatch Blancpain collaboration. I think it's actually just so cool and good for both brands. We'll talk about it in just a second, but actually on the wrist today, I have a Swatch watch, kind of fitting the theme of the video here. Had this in my collection for quite a while. It's the same model that actually Pope Francis wore, donated for auction, which we did for the Brian Lavalette Foundation just over a year ago. And then, of course, it looks like he's wearing kind of the same watch again. So very cool, and I think, everyone should at least have one Swatch in their collection. Oh, and before we get into it, guys, please do not forget to check out delraywatch.com, where we don't have this watch, but we do have, I believe, a couple of different Blancpain 50 Fathoms models. So if you're in the market, make sure to check it out over at delraywatch.com. So there was a leak of images, and then it moved into a full release on all the online zines and blogs. This is the Blancpain Swatch Bioceramic, code word for plastic, Scuba 50 Fathoms dive watches, and boy, has this really started to break the internet. Now, if you remember when the Omega Moonswatch collaboration, the original, not the the gold shine and the others that have come out since, but the originals, people were up in arms saying, oh, it would kind of taint the brand, this and that, but also many people really enjoyed them, and that's kind of what we're seeing here today when we look at this. Now, let's jump into the different models, my gut reactions, as well as the quick specs, and then we'll give it kind of a roundup, review at the end. I think I'll just go ahead and interject here that, if these are available or even floating on the market, I will be trying to get one of these for myself, because I just think they look so cool and much improved over the Moonswatch, some of the chief complaints that people had for them. So let's look at the models. I just like these colors. We have, these watches are named after different bodies of water, different oceans in the world. We have the Arctic Ocean in orange, the Pacific Ocean in yellow, the Atlantic Ocean in blue, the Indian Ocean in green. Wow, look at that green. Maybe the strap, I could go without it, but I like that green. And then we have the Antarctic Ocean in gray, which maybe the flat earthers would say doesn't even exist, but I digress. This is just such a cool collaboration. I think the gray one is it's spot on. It doesn't even kind of look, how you look at some of these watches and you're like, yeah, that could be kind of a toy. I mean, that looks like it could be something straight out of the catalog. If we didn't know it was a Swatch collaboration, people would probably want to buy this in the luxury segment. So the interesting thing about these watches is they're a little bit higher price point. So we have a $400 retail price point. So we're going to be kind of exceeding the prices, or at least the retail prices of the Moonswatch. And with that comes upgraded pretty much everything. This is going to feature the Sistem 51 automatic movement, which is a movement that's essentially made to be tossed away and not serviced. These are going to be hermetically sealed cases that are really not supposed to be serviced and maintained. This is going to be kind of the mass-produced movement that Swatch came out with nearly 7 or 8 years ago at this point, to kind of bring automatic watches to mainstream into a more affordable price point. This case is going to have a 42.3 millimeter wide by 14.4 millimeter thick and 48 millimeters lug to lug. So this kind of size of watch is going to be much more in line with a 50 Fathoms that you could buy from Blancpain today. Now, the water resistance is actually quite nice, which is going to be 300 feet or 91 meters. Now, I know this is not going to be, a proper deep diving watch, but I think for a watch at $400 that is essentially made of plastic and kind of, in that toy segment, let's call it, I think that is more than sufficient. You could totally swim with this no problem. It does feature that Swatch System 51 mechanical movement, beating at 3 hertz with a 90-hour power reserve. Yes, we're getting a 90-hour power reserve at a $400 watch, which I think is great. They didn't need to do that. It doesn't really matter. But then again, they are popping in the existing movements that they have. So I think it's, it certainly makes sense there. And of course, this is made out of the Bioceramic, which Swatch is, pretty much calling their plastic composite material here. Have they been making this and the Moonswatch and other watches at Swatch? They've got other kind of bioceramic models. And this watch at first is going to be available in 9 different boutiques, and then later there's going to be more of a global, international, widespread rollout where this is kind of a little more than rumored to be more publicly available. So if you're thinking of maybe lining up, I don't know that you necessarily have to. Why kind of go out there and fight people for a watch or literally anything, right? I mean, it's like kind of like what they used to do with the the Black Friday deals and things like that. Like, I wouldn't do that, okay? I think these are going to be a little bit more available. Gut reaction just based on the literature I'm seeing. And once again, they do stress that none of these watches are limited edition, and they should be available for people that actually want to go to a store, find a store, and purchase them, at least one of the models. So, wow. Big news, big changes coming to the watch industry. I'll say gut reaction, I like the way they look, right? I think the colors are fun, unique. I'm not the biggest fan of the colors on these straps, but that's kind of in the theme. And people kind of like that, the more fun kind of, maybe gender neutral approach to these types of watches, right? We saw it in the Moonswatch. They had different colors that could maybe appeal to everyone. And that's kind of almost what they're doing here. We don't have anything that's, the pinks or, kind of any fluorescence, but, we do have some of these models that I think could go to in either direction in any way for anybody. We have this orange model. I think it looks just so cool. And when I look at some of the images, you can tell that this watch, in my opinion, just looking at so many watch pictures and handling so many watches and comparing the pictures to actually what they are in real life, that the quality of these things should be better. And considering the Moonswatch had some quality control issues, some issues with braking, some issues with the dye in the Bioceramic rubbing off on the hands, particularly with the blue case model, they would rub off on people's hands and wrists and arms, and the actual color would come off and probably bring some phthalates with it. And we all know what that does to you out there for you guys that are kind of internet lurkers. So overall, I think, because it's a price point here, and this is a higher, for the Swatch group. Swatch owns Blancpain, much like they do Omega, and Blancpain has kind of been that old world brand for them that has this perception, at least, of providing a much higher quality watch than the counterpart Omega. Yet we're splitting hairs at this point, but that's kind of historically where these old world brands kind of fall in line in the tiers of the hierarchy of watch brands. So I think we're going to see a better release out of this. And the internet has really taken this by storm. A lot of people are saying, oh, they're watering down the Blancpain brand. This is an old world brand. They shouldn't be releasing plastic watches. This isn't a true dive watch. Kind of these criticisms that you would expect is people that kind of want to be negative about this. But I'll share, in my stage of this, I'm a watch dealer. I've got DelRayWatch.com. We buy, sell, trade watches and handle so many other watches. But I also collect watches. I wear all kinds, from Rolex to Swatch to Seiko to Patek. It doesn't matter. I just kind of like what I like. And I think this is just cool, right? In a world where people want something fast, we have fast fashion, we have these retailers and e-tailers like Zara, H&M, all this kind of a thing where it's more about getting speed to market, giving people new things, what they want, kind of that IKEA model, if you will, with furniture, maybe things that aren't made to stand the test of time. I think there's a place in the market where this really does work. And sure, you're going to have these purists that are going to say, oh, it's a plastic watch, it's garbage. Or you're going to have people that will say, oh, they're tainting down the brand. It's like, do you work for PR or marketing in Swatch Group? Like, why do you care, right? If you don't like it, don't buy it. But if somebody, maybe saves up a long time, maybe they're a student or maybe they're in just different situation than others who are buying the actual Blancpain watches, or maybe that they just like them for whatever reason, and they buy the watch and they like it and they're proud of it and they want to wear it and connect with others, much like some did with the Moonswatch, kind of be part of the watch collecting community. It takes us back to this kind of trend I'm noticing with this snobbery or this bandwagon mentality, right? If you had these watches just viewed in a different way, and maybe you had a couple of like watch collecting celebrities get behind these things, I think those people's opinions would kind of change, and they'd be like, oh, this is so amazing. So I would say if you like this watch, what it looks like, and you shouldn't be scared or kind of hold back in buying one. I already see that the prices are being listed higher online, like several times. People haven't even picked them up yet, and they're trying to sell pre-orders on them. So I think this is going to be a hit of a watch. I'm pretty excited for it. And once again, I think if you are hesitating because you think there's maybe some kind of negative perceptions surrounding these bioceramic watches from the collaborations between the Swatch and the Swatch Group brands, I wouldn't let the haters stop you. Like I said, I'll probably try to pick one up myself. I think they're pretty cool, they're fun, and that's what watch collecting is and should be all about, at least the way that I see it. But I want to know, what do you guys think about this release? Is it as polarizing as the Moonswatch? I'd love to see it and hear it in the comments below. Let me know if you do plan on maybe waiting outside of a store and you pick one up. If you have any extra, I'd love to even compensate you extra for the watch if you pick one up. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P.